For 48 years, Voyager 1 has drifted in the dark, its faint heartbeat echoing across interstellar space. Many believe the ship had fallen silent forever, a relic from a distant era of human curiosity. But earlier this year, something changed. When the interstellar object known as 3I/Atlas began approaching the edge of our solar system, a small team of NASA engineers decided to attempt something extraordinary. They recalibrated Voyager's aging transmitters and pointed its antenna toward the coordinates where 3I/Atlas was moving at nearly 78,000 miles per hour. It was meant to be a simple diagnostic test, a final gesture before the signal died for good. Then, against every expectation, Voyager answered. The probe sent back a stream of electromagnetic pulses with a pattern identical to a hidden rhythm embedded in the golden record it carried since 1977. At that same moment, observatories tracking 3I/Atlas detected a sudden drop in velocity and a minor shift in trajectory. Coincidence? Or had Voyager just reached out and something reached back? Because if this contact was real, Voyager didn't just touch the course of the universe and the mysterious traveler to our universe. Launched in 1977, Voyager 1 was never meant to come home. It was built to wander, to keep traveling long after its mission ended, carrying humanity's voice into the infinite dark. After crossing the heliopause in 2012, it became the most distant human-made object in existence, more than 14.6 billion miles away. Its power is fading, its systems decades past their intended lifespan. Yet even now, it continues to whisper faint signals back to Earth, proof that somewhere out there, our oldest explorer is still alive. On board lies the Golden Record, a time capsule designed by Carl Sagan and his team. Etched in copper, it carries the sounds and images of Earth, greetings in 55 languages, whale songs, a mother's kiss, the heartbeat of a human being, and a map showing where to find us. It was never meant as a cry for help. It was a message of hope, an introduction in case someone was listening. For nearly half a century, no one replied. Then came 3I/Atlas. Discovered in 2025 by NASA and the European Space Agency, it became only the third interstellar object ever detected after Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I/Borisov in 2019. Unlike anything seen before, 3I/Atlas traveled with a strange elegance. Its tail pointed not away from the sun, but toward it, defying the behavior of every known comet. Spectroscopic data from the Keck Observatory in Hawaii revealed something even stranger. Traces of nickel compounds, not iron, the kind of metallic signature found in industrial alloys, not natural cosmic dust. Astronomers were divided. Some called it a statistical fluke. Others, like Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, warned that it might represent something entirely new, perhaps even an engineered object from beyond our system. Still, the data kept coming, and the mystery only grew deeper. The more we looked, the less it behaved like a comet at all. At the same time, Voyager 1, our first messenger to the stars, remained active in the void, its aging instrument still capable of transmitting signals at 38,000 miles per hour relative to the Sun. Two travelers, separated by half a century and the width of the solar system, yet somehow drawn onto the same path. When NASA engineers quietly directed Voyager's antenna toward the coordinates of 3I/Atlas, few expected anything to happen. It was, after all, an experiment born of curiosity, a symbolic attempt to see if one wanderer could sense another. But when the response came, a pattern matching the Golden Record's hidden frequency, it shook the room into silence. Because what are the odds? A machine launched in 1977, designed to speak for humanity, and a visitor from the stars appearing in 2025, showing signs of artificiality. 2 points in history, converging across 48 years and billions of miles. One was made by us, the other perhaps by something watching, and now, in the dark between stars, they have found each other. In early September 2025, something subtle yet historic happened. Deep within NASA's telemetry logs, engineers noticed a small set of commands transmitted to Voyager 1. Officially, it was described only as a routine calibration. But in the language of space communication, even a minor adjustment means intent. For a probe that had been drifting for nearly 5 decades, silence was the norm. So when Voyager's transmission stream changed, the scientific world took notice. Across the planet, independent monitoring stations were quietly watching. One of them, the Canberra Deep Space Network in Australia, detected a small but undeniable rise in carrier signal power coming from Voyager's direction. It wasn't much, barely a fraction of a decibel, but to radio engineers, it meant one thing: the probe had begun listening at a new frequency. It was as if someone had tuned an ancient radio, shifting from static to a whisper that wasn't supposed to exist. Then, 3 days later, Voyager spoke back. At 14.3 billion miles from Earth, the spacecraft transmitted a packet of data unlike anything in recent memory. The encoded signal contained a series of electromagnetic pulses repeating every 19.7 minutes, a near-perfect rhythm, mathematically precise, too structured to be random. Cosmic radiation doesn't repeat itself. Thermal noise doesn't count beats. Yet here was a pattern, repeating through the static, echoing across light years. At first, mission analysts thought it might be a system glitch. Voyager's instruments are nearly half a century old, and hardware degradation is common. But when data from Canberra and the Madrid station confirmed the same timing intervals, the explanation became harder to dismiss. Meanwhile, in a coincidence too eerie to ignore, telescopes tracking 3I/Atlas began reporting a synchronized flicker in its brightness, rising and fading in the same 19.7-minute rhythm. The object's coma glowed, dimmed, and glowed again, as if answering something invisible in the void. No one at NASA made an official statement, but leaked internal memos later cited anomalous signal correlation between the two events. For a few hours, radio astronomers around the world were locked in stunned silence. Could it really be that a transmission from a human probe had found resonance with something moving between the stars? The odds of natural synchronization over such distances are astronomically small. Even planetary magnetospheres or solar wind cycles don't align with such precision. Yet the data logs told a clear story. Voyager 1 had emitted a structured signal, and 3I/Atlas had responded in kind. For decades, the golden record was humanity's unanswered call to the cosmos. Now it seemed the universe might have found a way to call back. When the data from Voyager 1 was decoded, it wasn't the signal itself that froze the room. It was the timing. The repeating 19.7-minute interval matched something every researcher in the SETI community recognized immediately. It was the prime sequence, the pattern of prime numbers embedded deep within the golden record. Designed in 1977 by Carl Sagan's team, this mathematical code was humanity's way of saying, "We think in logic. We are intelligent." It was a universal handshake, something no natural process would produce by accident. The golden record wasn't just music and greetings. It was a language of numbers, geometry, and physics, an attempt to make meaning without words. Engraved in gold, it carried instructions for how to decode sound, images, and time itself, from box compositions to a newborn's cry. To any civilization capable of mathematics, the prime sequence would stand out like a flare in the dark, a beacon of deliberate creation. That was nearly 50 years ago, and now Voyager had sent back a pulse aligned with that same sequence. It wasn't random noise, nor a repeat of its old telemetry. The structure followed the same binary rhythm used to introduce the golden record's audio data. To the scientists at SETI, it looked less like a malfunction and more like an answer. The implications were staggering. If the signal was authentic, It meant something out there had received and processed the message humanity sent across the stars. But how? Voyager's transmission range is limited, and 3I/Atlas was millions of miles away from its direct line of communication. No known mechanism could allow the object to hear a radio wave, much less respond through synchronized light emissions. Still, the timing was impossible to ignore. The pattern mirrored not only the Golden Records code, but also the exact mathematical spacing of prime intervals. It was as if the same logic was being played back from the void, acknowledging that the message had been received. Inside SETI's Mountain View lab, researchers replayed the data for hours, watching the waveforms align with the original 1977 code. Each spike, each pause, mirrored the Golden Records digital imprint, a handshake across decades and billions of miles. Someone or something had understood. But understanding is not the same as control. If 3I/Atlas was truly responding, then the response wasn't merely symbolic. The object's sudden slowdown, its mirrored pulse, and its chemical anomalies began to look like part of a larger system, something that reacts when contacted. For years, the Golden Record was seen as humanity's message in a bottle, drifting through endless darkness. But now, scientists were forced to ask the question no one wanted to voice. What if our greeting wasn't a message at all? What if it was a trigger? And by sending it, had we just awakened something waiting to be found? Within days of Voyager 1's mysterious transmission, space telescopes began reporting something extraordinary. Data from both the James Webb Space Telescope and ESA's Mars Express probe showed that 3I/Atlas was slowing down. Its velocity dropped by roughly 1.8% over just a few days. For an interstellar object moving freely through the void, that kind of deceleration made no sense. There were no gravitational bodies nearby, no solar wind strong enough to drag it. In the vacuum between planets, friction doesn't exist. Something else was acting on it. But the real shock came when astronomers examined its reflected light. Every 19 to 20 minutes, 3I/Atlas dimmed and brightened again, in a rhythm that perfectly matched the pulse cycle from Voyager's 19.7-minute signal. The pattern was too precise to be coincidence. Observatories from Hawaii to Chile confirmed the same timing offset within seconds of accuracy. It was as if the object was breathing in response to the probe, its surface flickering like a cosmic heartbeat. Researchers quickly coined a new term for it: mirror sync. It described the way 3I/Atlas appeared to mimic the electromagnetic rhythm detected from Voyager. No natural object had ever shown such behavior. Comets can flicker due to rotation or outgassing, but never with this kind of mathematical consistency. The brightness curve wasn't chaotic, it was controlled, as though an internal mechanism was managing the timing deliberately. At NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, plasma physicists tried to build a rational model. One proposal suggested a resonance between Voyager's radio output and charged particles surrounding 3I/Atlas, a kind of plasma feedback loop. But when simulations ran, the math didn't fit. The phase alignment was too tight, the frequency drift too stable. Even the energy output from the object was several magnitudes higher than any known plasma interaction. As the data poured in, a deeper pattern began to emerge. The mirror sync intensified only when Voyager transmitted. When the signal paused, 3I/Atlas went still. When engineers re-enabled telemetry, the light resumed its pulse. The correlation was unmistakable. The two travelers were locked in a rhythm, exchanging silent signals across billions of miles. No official statement came from NASA, but internal logs leaked to several astronomy networks described the behavior as anomalous optical coherence, potentially indicative of non-natural feedback. In simpler terms, 3I/Atlas was responding. For decades, Voyager 1 had been humanity's lone voice in the cosmic dark, a machine still echoing our first hello to the stars. Now, something out there seemed to be saying hello back. And if the synchronization was real, it meant that the oldest spacecraft ever built by human hands had just become part of a dialogue we don't yet understand. Something ancient or perhaps intelligent had heard us and was starting to reply. In mid-September 2025, everything went dark. For exactly 42 minutes, the Deep Space Network, the global system that links Earth to every spacecraft beyond the Moon, stopped receiving data from Voyager 1. To most people, it was a minor hiccup in a decades-old mission, but inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the silence felt deliberate. Every console showed the same status: connection lost. When the signal finally returned, NASA released a brief statement saying Voyager 1 had experienced a temporary communication fault. No further details, no raw data, just a single line posted on the mission's official page. Yet within the scientific community, questions spread fast. Why would the most reliable spacecraft ever built suddenly go silent, just days after it appeared to synchronize with an interstellar object? That's when a whistleblower came forward. Speaking anonymously to the Atlantic Science Desk, the engineer claimed that the monitoring system had, in fact, recorded a data burst unlike anything in Voyager's history. The packet wasn't standard telemetry, nor was it corrupted. It carried a structure resembling a firmware update, a binary format consistent with command protocols but originating from the probe itself. In plain language, Voyager had transmitted something it wasn't programmed to send. The strangest part came next. During that same 42-minute blackout, NASA's public operating status changed. Across its website and federal tracking portals, a message appeared. NASA is currently closed due to a lapse in government funding. The timing was uncanny. While the world assumed it was an administrative glitch, internal servers remained locked, and external researchers were unable to access the Deep Space Network's logs for more than 2 days. When the systems came back online, sections of the raw signal data were missing. Archived files showed a gap where the 42-minute transmission should have been, replaced by encrypted placeholder text. Officials described it as routine data loss due to buffer overflow. But for those who had been watching the synchronization between Voyager 1 and 3I/Atlas, the coincidence was too sharp to ignore. Had Voyager received something back? Something that rewrote part of its own system? Was the blackout a safety measure or an attempt to contain what came through the link? NASA refused all interview requests, citing the ongoing government shutdown. But within private astronomy forums, one question kept surfacing. If Voyager truly made contact, why hide it? Perhaps it wasn't the failure they were covering. Perhaps it was the response. And maybe, just maybe, something in that silent 42 minutes was never meant for human eyes. In the weeks that followed the blackout, the scientific community split into 3 camps. Each offered an explanation for what had happened between Voyager 1 and 3I/Atlas. None could fully account for the evidence, but together they framed one of the most extraordinary debates in modern astronomy. The first theory was the most conservative, a natural phenomenon. According to this view, the synchronization between the probe's radio pulses and the object's changing brightness was a coincidence born from plasma resonance. In interstellar space, charged particles can interact with electromagnetic waves, sometimes creating cyclical fluctuations in both light and radio frequencies. But even its supporters admitted the odds were microscopic. The precision of the 19.7-minute rhythm, identical across independent observatories, didn't fit any known plasma model. Nature, as far as we know, doesn't keep time that perfectly. The second theory was far more unsettling. Some researchers proposed that Voyager 1 had awakened something hidden within 3I/Atlas. a dormant system, possibly artificial, that recognized the frequency encoded in the golden record. This idea, nicknamed the technological feedback hypothesis, suggested that the object's strange composition, its nickel emissions, anti-tail orientation, and stable core temperature might not be natural at all. To these scientists, Voyager's transmission wasn't an accident. It was a key, and the 19.7-minute response was the door unlocking. Then came the skeptics. The third theory claimed that everything was simply a misinterpretation of corrupted data. After all, Voyager is more than 47 years old, operating with power levels lower than most household light bulbs. Radiation damage, signal distortion, and cosmic noise could easily produce patterns that appear intentional. In this version, the strange signals were nothing more than random static, shaped into meaning by human imagination. But the problem with dismissing the event as coincidence was the timing. Every anomaly, the telemetry spike, the brightness fluctuations, the 42-minute data blackout, lined up within the same 7-day window. Every one of them tied back to the exact frequency used to encode the golden record's prime sequence. Even the most skeptical analysts agreed, the overlap was too precise to ignore. Across forums, research papers, and closed-door briefings, the question grew louder. If it wasn't a coincidence, what was it? Has humanity just made contact, not with a civilization, but with one of its artifacts, something ancient, automated, waiting for a signal to wake it? SETI researchers began referring to the event as the Echo, a shorthand for what might be the first interstellar dialogue in history. But if this was a conversation, it was one-sided. We had spoken first almost 50 years ago. Now something had replied. And if that reply was real, it wasn't just a scientific milestone, it was the start of a story still being written. Because somewhere beyond the heliopause, two travelers had found each other, and humanity, for the first time, had said the first word of a sentence that the universe might just finish. In the days that followed the blackout, a quiet unease settled over the astronomical community. Multiple observatories, Keck in Hawaii, the Atacama Array in Chile, and even radio telescopes in South Africa reported the same strange anomaly. A faint rise in background noise coming from the direction of Voyager 1. It wasn't static or solar interference. The signal carried a structured pulse, barely above the cosmic microwave hum, like an echo returning from the edge of interstellar space. For decades, Voyager's transmissions had been strictly one way, our messages cast into the void with no expectation of reply. But this time, something was different. A senior astrophysicist from the European Southern Observatory put it bluntly, "This is no longer a one-way signal." His remarks spread across research forums like wildfire. If the data was accurate, it suggested that something near Voyager was reflecting, amplifying, or even imitating its signal in real time. That was when the most radical theory emerged. What if 3I/Atlas wasn't just another interstellar traveler, but an ancient probe sent from elsewhere, long before humanity learned to leave Earth? Its bizarre trajectory, metallic emissions, and synchronized pulses suddenly made sense through that lens. The object wasn't behaving like a comet because it wasn't one. It was listening. And when Voyager spoke in the mathematical rhythm of the golden record, it responded instinctively, as though it recognized the language. No one could prove it, but the implications were staggering. If true, it meant the universe hadn't been silent at all. It had been waiting. The golden record, intended as a greeting, might have been more than a symbol of human hope. It could have been a key that fit into an ancient lock drifting between the stars. Still, the scientific community fractured. Some called the reflection data an instrumentation glitch. Others, like researchers at SETI Berkeley, quietly began reanalyzing deep space transmissions, looking for the same faint pulse hidden in old archives. The debate split conferences, and behind closed doors, funding requests for further investigation were denied or delayed. Officially, NASA and ESA dismissed the phenomenon as background interference. Unofficially, several labs reported an unexplained rise in narrowband activity from the same coordinates as 3I/Atlas. To some, it felt like déjà vu, the same disbelief that once greeted the discovery of Oumuamua, now amplified by fear. If the object truly was a probe, its purpose remained unknown. Observation, response, or something we can't yet imagine. Whatever the truth, one conclusion echoed through every control room. Humanity was no longer the only one watching. And if the 3I/Atlas event truly was a response, then we didn't just send a message into space. We woke up to something that had been listening all along. For nearly half a century, Voyager 1 has been a symbol of human ambition, a fragile machine carrying our voice into the cosmic dark. It was supposed to drift forever, fading quietly into eternity. But now, that same machine sits at the center of a mystery no one can explain. Across billions of miles, an object named 3I/Atlas, moving with impossible precision and unnatural chemistry, has begun to react to our frequency. Its rhythm matches ours, its light follows our pulse, and its silence feels intentional. Some say it's coincidence, a trick of plasma and distance. Others whisper that it's the first sign of contact, an interstellar dialogue between creators separated by time and light. Maybe Voyager's golden record, meant to introduce humanity to the universe, finally reached an audience capable of understanding it, or worse, awakening it. We've always looked to the stars for answers, but what if the sky has finally started looking back? Because if the signals are real, then Voyager is no longer just our messenger, it's our mirror. A reflection of curiosity that may have stirred something ancient into motion. So we're left with one question. If the universe truly heard us, is it preparing to answer, or simply watching to see what we'll do next? Leave a comment below and subscribe to MindGap, because sometimes the scariest thing isn't the echo we send into the dark. It's when the echo starts to remember us.